to be fair, this story isn't completely without merit, bar its insanity. There are actually a couple of interesting lines of dialogue, like Karul actually does get some good lines. The reason why I was wondering whether or not this was like an intersecting storyline, like in Sonic Adventures, the only example I can think of, when the Gophers first appeared, they actually say this, and I'm just going to quote again.
So, another adventure has found their way to our own door. There have been many others before you, Mr. Lizard. Even that silly Cranky Con has tried to get past these doors, but left empty-handed. You think you could do any better?
Okay. So apparently Cranky Kong underwent the plot of the road to El Dorado.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of interesting. I don't know whether this is Cranky doing it as part of the game's plot, whether if you played as Cranky Kong you would see what happened before this, or whether this is referring to Cranky Kong in his youth, as in when he was originally the arcade DK.
That is a very, very interesting thought.
I mean, thinking about it, there was something in the backstory. I'm gonna have to double check this just to make sure, but it was said that in between like the DK arcade games and becoming Cranky Kong, Cranky did go exploring around the world, hence why he left his hero coins in really hard to find places in DKC2. That was the whole justification for them. So it would be kind of interesting if they were tied into that, but like I said, this is only a theory. It actually gets even more interesting though for what Karul says in response to that line.
I do everything better than an old goat, so this should be no problem for me. After all, I am king of the Kremlins.
Okay, processing that.
Yeah, so again, we're not sure if Karul's just making a generic insult, or if this game's implying that Karul had a rivalry with Cranky at some point as well, which...
would have been awesome!
Yeah, I mean, it also would call into question of how old Karul is.
Well, I suppose he's an alligator, and alligators live a whole lot longer than... well, crocodile. He's a crocodile, and crocodiles live a whole lot longer than monkeys.
Yeah, that is true. Good point, actually.
Yeah, like the one that died at the age of 140.
Oh, wow.
Generally, lizards tend to live a very, very long time.
Oh, that spells doom for the cons. But anyway,
until eventually King K. Rool, at the age of 140, has no teeth and is confined to a wheelchair, which is an amusing image.
Yes. But, yeah, that's the thing. This story, it has a load of interesting ideas, but we never saw... I don't think, it's been a while since I've seen the video, but I don't think there was any hint of a story mode in the much later beta versions, like when they were closer to complete the game. And I can kind of understand why, because, again, whilst this story has some interesting moments which show that Rareware may have been continuing to build their world's mythology, this is insane! I mean, come on! Elder
yes.
bloody Wado!
Yes. Yes! Yeah, it might bring up some actually incredibly intriguing backstory speculation, but the basis around it is, to once again quote Chris Rock, this is bananas.
Oh dear, that's actually very appropriate phrasing, but I...
Oh my god, it is! I didn't even realize the pun.
Oh dear. To be fair, I can see some people saying that we're overreacting to this, that El Dorado isn't as silly a concept as some of the other stuff that's appeared in Donkey Kong, and yeah, I can understand that viewpoint. I mean, even in DKC2, which is about as dark as the series ever got, you had Diddy beatboxes to get the levels, you know, it's... The franchise has never taken itself seriously, and the cons are thrill seekers and they love adventure, so it kind of makes sense that they would seek out ancient civilization. But even if this was not El Dorado, but some like fictitious equivalent like Condorado or whatever, even if it was something like that, this story is not only silly, but really, really contrived. Because first of all, as we've already said, there are just 4 random trials which these Gophers are just willing to tell K. Rool about for no reason, and they can be completed with an aeroplane. And actually, according to one of Rareware's comments in here, one of the missions was protecting a train that was wandering around a lava field.
What?
Yeah, these missions are, trials, which are absolutely unrelated to anything that's going on with this whole Dorado story. It is just so ludicrously contrived, and also, if I am going to be nitpicking and reveal bits of the backstory and overworld, why the hell does Karul suddenly care about getting rich all of a sudden?
Well, he's lost so many of his underlings and lost so many of his ships and castles and boss monsters that maybe he just needs to pay off his debts and get some new ones.
I guess so, but still.
Once again, actually, I have a better one for this. This is Xananab.
So yeah, that's why, even though there are some interesting concepts and lines in there, and it's kind of interesting to see where we're planning to take the Donkey Kong franchise at one point. Frankly, the only way I can sum it up is Karul wants to find El Dorado.
What?
And with that, let's move on to the next news story.
Yeah, please don't kill me again.
You have no need to fear of death. I got a bunch of Phoenix down to this drawer, one or two little one-up mushrooms, but they taste like crap, to be honest.
I wonder how they would taste fried in stir-fry or put on pizza.
I would not recommend it. That blew up my microwave.
I wonder why the pizza probably grew to exponential size.
Our next two news stories are, to be honest, Pokemon related. The first news story is one we can cover pretty quickly, but it's mostly positive. Remember that bizarre crossover we talked about with Pokemon and Nobunaga's ambition?
Yes, I remember this.
Turns out it's coming to the West after all, or at the very least America.
Woo!
It goes under the not so imaginative title of Pokemon Conquest.
Well, it worked.
Yeah.
After Pokemon Coliseum and Pokemon XD, a title I cannot take seriously because of anime smileys.
When you put it like that, that actually does kind of work. You couldn't really call it Nobunaga's ambition because not only have those games not been released outside of Japan, well, do any Westerners who aren't interested in anime know who Nobunaga is?
I don't believe so.
And just to quickly explain for that portion, to give you a very basic gist, Nobunaga was basically this Japanese warlord who basically got into his head to try and conquer all the various regions of Japan and was eventually killed for his trouble.
As that tended to happen back in the old days.
Yeah. Especially on an isolated island by Japan, which, actually, funny story, it was once denounced by Europe as possibly one of the most violent places on Earth that just loved fighting. And to put that in perspective, this is a time when Europe was constantly getting into squabbles over trade and land.
So it was the Zaraki district.
Pretty much, yes.
There's my nerd reference for the day.
And it was a pretty good one. Basically, the game is about Japanese warlords fighting each other for land, and now they have Pokemon.
This is gonna be awesome.
Yeah. A little bit more has been revealed about it now that, well, it's in English now, so we can actually understand what the hell they're saying in the trailers. And your main protagonist, who can be male or female depending on what you choose, like all Pokemon games, starts off with an EV, which, yeah, you can pretty much evolve any way you wish. But also, kind of like Fire Emblem actually, you can actually recruit warlords and add their Pokemon to your vast army.
Wow, that's awesome. Holy crap, that's like Fire Emblem.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's kind of like a strategy RPG. I mean, I don't think the mechanics work quite the same way as Fire Emblem. Yeah, this is just going by what I've seen in trailers. But it does look like Pokemon's now going into the realm of strategy RPG as opposed to the more traditional RPG it's been for a while. The only final interesting bit I can say before we move on is that one other thing that also caught my eye is the fact that during battle, characters can perform special moves by linking with their Pokemon or something like that, and each character has their own written quote that comes up when they're about to say this, but this also goes for the main protagonist.
Okay then.
Yeah, so this is maybe the first time we have a Pokemon protagonist that can talk.
That's bananas. That's unheard of.
Yeah, I know. I mean, to be fair, it was a very generic line, like, I hope this works. So it could just be like a series of generic lines that pop up in battle, but even so, it's a step up from what we normally get in Pokemon.
Yeah, that's to say the least. It's kind of like the improvements Black and White made on the whole villain system. You know, actually adding a villain system.
Indeed.